I said, I'm never going to work on Scooby again. This is the last one. But then, being that you're Scooby fans, Scoob Holiday Haunt, I ended up working on that movie.
Oh,
Now, you probably don't know that because it's not on my IMDb.
no.
They killed that show. Well, what happened was, I bounced around a bit and then ended up working at on Untangled, the series. And then when that ended, I ended up over on Space Jam at Warner Brothers again on WAG. After that ended, Mike um, Mike Karinsky, you did an interview with him, right?
Yeah.
Uh, he um, he says, hey, he called me up and said, hey, I was looking at Scooby backgrounds doing the Scooby movie, and every time I saw a Scooby background I like, your name came up. It was like, you're the guy, So he hired me to work on Holiday Haunt. And so I worked on that for about a year. And I mean, we put so much into that. I mean, the locations, the props, the everything. And it's so sad that nobody's going to ever see it. So every time I say, "Oh, this is my last Scooby," then another one pops up. So so far that was the last one.
Oh, see, that
And
is fascinating because, like you said, we interviewed Michael Karinsky like a week before like the news broke about the movie, and it was such a weird time. But I guess now that kind of the dust has settled on all of that, there's been a bit of time. I mean, is there anything that you can tell us about, I guess, the work that you did on Holiday Haunt, and I guess what the work that went into that?
yeah, well, during COVID, everyone, was kicked out of the studio. So there's my parents have a place in Montana, so we just went up to Montana, the whole family, and I just started working remotely from here. And I'm here now in Montana. But during Holiday Hunt, um, I had to design the trees, all the pine trees and all that. And so that was my first assignment. And so I just go outside and I look around, and I'm starting to study all the trees. Started learning the difference between, the fir trees and the different conifers, and all that, studying all their pine cones and all their their needles are all their needles are different. Like so some are like a comb and some are like a bottle brush. So I had to like figure all that stuff out. And then the snow and the snow on the ground and the snow on the trees and the snow on the branches. So for the trees, I had to figure out, okay, this is like a light snow on the, and, because we're getting into real detail because it's CG, and there's different time periods where, it's going to be like a light snow, then there's a medium snow, then there's a real heavy, like real heavy, like blizzard. And so I had to put the snow on the trees for all the different, different snow, different snow situations. And as you go inside, there was the lodge, and the lodge had interiors and such. And so I had to create the paintings for the interior of the lodge, which was the cafeteria, and it had to have more of like a country kind of theme to it. So there's tablecloths and there's plates, and they all had a Christmas theme. So the plates have a Christmas design on it, and you have to just make up the Christmas design in the plate and the forks and the silverware. So it's way more detailed and different than television, where you're just painting rough backgrounds. You're painting the actual things that are going to be made into CG. Um, so it's just quite a different thing. But being in Montana and having neighbors that make canoes and such, So I put like, a Morley canoe on the wall, and that's a guy that makes canoes down the street, and he's quite famous for it in here. So I say, oh, I'll put a Morley canoe up on the wall. I'll put things that are kind of Montana themes here, because there's like log cabins everywhere up here. And so the references everywhere. You just look down at the ground, you see wood texture, you see, rocks, and, all this same stuff that they were using in the movie. So it really helped me. And one of the big things that I didn't get to show was Mike said, "Hey, you guys have any like fine art paintings of landscapes, of things that would go in the movie, anything that's mountain like?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I have a lot of stuff like that, because I did live here for a while, and I did a lot of painting, like landscape and winter scenes and stuff." And I said, "Yeah, I have some stuff." And he looked at it, he goes, "Oh man, these are fantastic. Let's put those in the movie. Let's put them in the frames. So they did put a lot of those paintings in the frames in the walls in the movie. So I have never seen them though done. So none of us have seen it. So it is supposed to be there, but it's one of these days maybe they'll do a screening for the people that worked on it at least and get to see it. But yeah, so it's really sad, and I feel really bad for Mike, because he just worked so hard, and everyone who's worked so hard on it, that we may never ever get to see it. So,
Yeah, it
but
was such a bad time, and I remember like the second we heard, I think we started up a petition and tried to kind of get the word out there about the movie, and just to let the higher ups know that there is an interest for it. And I think the timeline that I kind of formed in my head, I'm not sure if this is like the official thing, but I believe it was announced to be cancelled about 10 weeks after it had finished. But then at some stage they did just go back to just complete the movie, although with no plan on releasing it. So by the time the bad news broke, had your work finished on the movie, or were you kind of required to go back after and touch up some things afterwards?
no, I was done. I was done a long time before they announced that. Um, I finished with Warner's about Christmas of last year, and then um, they farmed some of the production background paintings out to Brazen Animation, which is in Texas. And so then they hired me to do a few background paintings for kind of the follow up. And that was in the spring, around this time, a little later than this last year. And then I did some of that. And then I was done. I was like, it was over. And then I didn't hear about it until, I guess, around what, September or something, or
Yeah.
around there. Um, and yeah, and so they had already paid for the music and the scoring. So Tony went and scored the movie since everyone was already paid for anyway. They said, we're going to score it anyway. So they did it. Um, the thing is, they say they can't release it because of they took a write-off, a tax write-off. So basically they can't monetize it, but they could release it and just not monetize it, right? So I'm hoping for that. So just don't make any money on it. Just release it and let people see it. Why not? So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, that speaks to me completely, because it's just something that has to be out there at this point. It's like, because it just sounds so good. I mean, just hearing what you're talking about it now, and hearing Michael Korinsky and Bill Haller discussing the love and passion that went into the movie, it sounds like it was going to be like the Scooby movie. And we were trying to make content surrounding the Christmas time, like top 10 movies for Scooby to watch at Christmas, and you really struggle. So there was definitely that gap in the market for a Christmas-based or holiday-based Scooby Doo property. And so, are there any sequences or backgrounds or any kind of things that you worked on from Holiday Haunt that you would most like to see, brought back, brought to life, when if it eventually comes out?
Oh yeah, there was a couple. There was the lodge, dining room that I did. there was the caves. There was the caves where it was underneath, where a lot of action took place. There was like a mine. There was like a mine tunnel, um, where I worked pretty hard at the, you know, Mike really pushed me to create the rock texture. So I created this interesting rock texture I loved. I used it inside the cave, and the wood textures. It was just more fun with creating textures in rock and wood and stone and um, rust, and so I did a lot of that stuff. And so there was like this mine shaft in the caves, and there was also a sort of like a workshop for where they created the like there were like mannequin parts, arms and legs and stuff, where they would create animatronic type uh, characters. And so there was this workshop that was kind of like a creepy, real Scooby Doo style background kind of thing, where it was reminded me a bit of Mystery Incorporated, where the lighting is dark, and there's a moonlit coming through the window, and the monster shows up. Scooby was looking, of course Scooby always discovers the monster first and tries to tell the others, that kind of thing. But it was a real Scooby-esque type scene, and I created that. I remember the painting that workshop, and all the paint buckets with the dripping paint, and down the edges, and the rusty tools and on the walls, and hammers, and whatever. So that was a lot of fun. I'll have to show it in my portfolio, when I put it all together online. So anyways, it was a good show. Would have been fun to see, and I hope someday we get to see it.
Well, it's great that you've mentioned that you did work on it, because obviously, like, from, based on the back of this, like, I'm going to leave the petition that we did, in the description of this video, and try and get the word out there again, because it's really interesting to hear about all the things that we'd love to have seen. I guess in terms of that portfolio that you mentioned, so what role, or what was your exact role going to be on Holiday Horn? Like, what would it have been classified as?
It was visual development.
Mm.
Yeah, it was a visual development job. I think on Space Jam, see, Space Jam was a combo where we did visual development, and then when we went into full production, we did production backgrounds as well. So I had a dual role on that show, where I was visual development and background painter, but I think I got credited as just background painter. So I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care. But it's just that was a specific thing. We did come up with all the kind of ideas and such in the beginning. So anyways, yeah, it's all been real fun. It's been a good career, good times. It's all about the fun. Like I said, just follow whatever you think is fun, just do it.